It's a daily practice to ask questions and improve your deep level listening. So talk less, listen more. As you said, what would you tell your younger self? Patience and be more inquisitive. Remember, adapt. It's not one size fits all, so that we can love challenges. And I invite our listeners today to pick one hard thing. The one hard thing rule. That was very impactful, and I think I'm going to adopt that, because the role modeling piece is so important. I just summarized all your gold dust moments, Kim.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Hello and welcome to the Coaching Podcast, Coaching for Success in Sport and Business. Your host is Emma Doyle, the energy and high performance under pressure coach who is a world leader in unleashing human potential. Buckle up for this high octane session. Let them have it, coach.
Hey everybody, today we are joined on the Coaching Podcast by Kim Bastable, who's the Director of Professional Tennis Management at the University of Florida. She's really the visionary behind this university-based program dedicated to business and leadership of the rackets industry. She's also All-American, NCAA, SEC champion for the Gators. Now, of course, Kim, I have a Georgia Bulldog that lives with me in my house here. So the Gators and the Bulldogs are a bit of a rivalry going on there for many, many years, of course, which is a good thing. But, the other thing I like in your bio, Kim, is just you're a lifelong learner with a master's in education and positive psychology and all sorts of certifications from the Human Performance Institute, as well as just the mental side of the game. So I'm excited to talk business, leadership, and also the future. But the first pattern break question is, if tennis was a song, what song would it be?
Oh, wow. I don't even know if I can answer that question. I'm such a...
Too early. Not enough.
No, too early. Yeah. No, my husband always loves to play that idea of music. And I'm thinking, I love music, but what's the name of that song?
Oh, yes.
It's like, I even have grandkids that are now saying that song that has that line in it. And I just have to Google the line because I can't come up with the name of a song. So I could probably give you a few of my favorite artists before I could give you the name of an actual song.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, we'll go with what my college coach used to do. We used to play Eye of the Tiger.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, before we get out of the van, and it worked for different individuals. So let's go there first.
Well, you bring back a memory. Now I want to go with We Are the Champions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's, I do think tennis is on the very top of the heap right now, particularly on the eve of the US Open that does so well every year and all the Grand Slams. So there you go. We are the champions. Thank you for that I had to go back in time.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've certainly had success, and let's go there talking about individualizing coaching. Same in leadership. I mean, you're leading the next generation of administrators and coaches in the industry, treating everybody the same. Obviously, you and I are on the same page. You can't do that. And how do you tap into each individual person that you are leading in the role that you're doing now?
Well, I love the John Wooden quote, we need to coach them all the same differently. And I believe that even with my own children, they all are different, but you want a sense of equality, but you can't be equal because they're not wired the same way. I have twins, and so you would think they're quite the same, except they're quite not the same. I think emotional intelligence is really a huge aspect of this, to be sensitive to how people are responding to you. You may be trying a method and you just see this blank face and you think, okay, I think I need to change the message. I need to give a different example. I need to ask a question to see what they're hearing or why they're not responding. So that's more the sensitivity piece to understanding there's a closed door there. There's no one home, so to speak. So finding a new way. And I think with the university program I lead now, I'm after 5 years in it, I've had so many student conversations that I do see trends. I do definitely see trends. I see similar situations happening. We made our recent sort of adaptation of the coursework into some new, the way we're delivering it is slightly differently. And that was based on conversations. I was based on seeing the trends. I was based on hearing what I thought people needed. So I think it's a sensitivity is the most important thing. We can't just, as leaders, do our thing the way we've always done it and expect the word to get through. You maybe do it the way you always done it, but you still need to be sensitive. Is the way you've always done it actually still working? And it may not be, and the people may not be understanding. So, yeah, a little bit of emotional intelligence, I think, is the biggest key.
Were you like that naturally, or do you think that's a skill that can be learned? And I guess where I was sort of going with that is you talk a lot about self-awareness. I mean, I've listened to you talk before. We can't, as leaders, lead anyone else unless we understand who we are as what are our traits, and even those subconscious things that we don't know about, bringing them to our conscious awareness so that we can be the best version of ourselves possible. So talk to me about you as a young coach. What were you like? Did these things come naturally to you, and can they be learned?
Well, first of all, the answer, can they be learned? 100%. They can be learned, and they're learned when you are sensitive to realizing they are a thing. It's like, so I would say my young coach person probably wasn't as patient as I am now, probably wasn't as inquisitive as I am now, did a lot more teaching and a lot less listening. And I wouldn't be someone that was super closed-minded, but too narrow-minded for the person I am today. I feel like I'm far better coach today. And the problem I had back earlier in my career as a tennis coach when I was on court, and I did not understand. I could see how players were mentally challenged in situations, but I, as a coach of forehands, backhands, serves, and strategy, could not help them with those mental aspects. And now that's really what forced me back to the certifications you mentioned. The master's degree was a feeling of, I can't help in these situations, but these are huge. These are very important. And frankly, as a player, I needed someone to help me in those situations, and I didn't have it either. And so I really said, what is just a normal coach? I don't have to be a full-blown psychologist. I don't have to have a PhD, but as a coach, what do I need to know to be a better coach? And it is those mental, emotional aspects that I think I learned.
Could you share a story and give an example of one specific, especially from the mental side of peak performance, that comes to mind?
Oh yeah, I have the one that kind of makes me sad to this day. It was a girl I was coaching high school tennis, and it was a girl who was the fourth child in her family, and the whole family played tennis. And she was by far the best player in the state, but she was living with a lot of pressure. It was a divorced family, and there was just chaos kind of in her life to some extent. But she was an excellent player. But she was in the regionals to qualify for state, where she was just far and away better than the player she was playing. But the player she was playing was scrappy. It was one of those people that just get every ball back, doesn't look pretty, but made things difficult in an unathletic way. But my player, just really broke down in the pressure of, I'm not even going to qualify for state, and my team is hosting state. Not only that, we were hosting the state championship where she should have won it. And the look on her face and my inability to help her in that moment was it broke my heart. And then the next week we had to host state without her in the tournament. And that was the one that I said, what could I have done to help her manage? And that was a complex situation because of the family pressure. But now I know what I would have done. it wouldn't have been something I would have done in that 30 seconds in between points or games. It would have been set the foundation better for her to be able to handle a focus on process, a focus on controlling what she could control and ignoring all the distractions that are around her. But that isn't something for an 18-year-old girl that you can learn and, that I can come up with as a coach in, on the game changeover breaks. So it would have taken a little bit, but we could have worked on it over the course of the season to prepare her better. And I'm hopeful I have that skill now, but still sad I didn't have it for her.
One thing that comes up through that really honest, vulnerable story is identity and cascading down. Even as a leader in business, you don't get the contract, and then all of a sudden you're under financial pressure, and then you're having problems within your team. They're not gelling. There's a conflict, and very, very quickly you can lose that sense of, am I really meant to be in this role, or whatever it might be. So I think also this could be just a note to parents when you're describing your children. My firstborn, they're the artist. My secondborn, you're the tennis player, rather than they choose to play tennis. Like, even just in the language around that. Talk to me about, how do you support this next, again, future generation of leaders with the subtleties of language? I'm so passionate about reframing and helping them with their language on court as it relates to communication. I'm sure you cover that within your, actually that was an assumption, never make assumptions, Emma Doyle. But could you go down the road of communication with supporting this next generation of leaders? Take that anywhere where you want.
Oh, I think the identity piece that you made a comment about is huge, and it was huge in my life. I remember standing in the probably that 9-10-year-old girl standing in the grocery store next to my mom, and somebody she would run into, and they would say, "Oh, you're the tennis player," to her, to me, and I thought, at that time I got enough of those little comments by my mom's peers to think, okay, that's what I'm known for. That's my thing. Like, that's who I am. And I guess I better keep it that way. And I guess I better have a good story to tell when they ask me how you're doing and did you win the tournament? And those are such innocent, like that poor person who's my mom's peer is just trying to find a way to chit chat with a 10-year-old.
And connect.
She's not meaning anything harmful. In fact, she thinks she's probably complimenting me by recognizing that. But it's, wow, the nuances of that are you are labeled. And in my mind, I was the tennis player, my brother was the singer, my sister was the smart one, and my little sister, she didn't really have an identity. And I literally remember saying that, thinking that all through childhood, that I was the tennis player, and it was the joke around the house that I better make a college scholarship or else I was going to be doing hard labor or driving a truck. I mean, I couldn't go to college. I was spending it all on the tennis lessons. So there's just so much pressure that we put around that type of thing. So yeah, language matters, but how do you stop the kind lady in the grocery store from trying to say something to the 10-year-old? You don't. So could it have been that my mom and dad defended me a little bit and made sure that I wasn't known only as the tennis player? I mean, sure, it would have been, but are they a bad parent because they didn't? No, I think my parents were phenomenal at supporting what I did and encouraging me. And I would say, look where we are today. I mean, tennis has been the hugest part of my life. And so I think this is just all a learning curve. I think we all need to learn from things that are challenging. And the biggest thing is, don't play the victim. Don't say, woe is me. Just say, well, how did that affect me? And recognize it, understand it, learn from it, move forward. I'm a better person now because I have a master's degree and 3 certifications. So I'm not sad that I went through anything that I went through, honestly.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head with regards to the connection piece. People are finding common ground. Maybe the person in the grocery store also plays tennis, and so they're just connecting on that level. I do think, though, just insert the word choose. That's a beautiful, just little reframe. You know, oh, my daughter chooses to play tennis, or my son chooses to play a musical instrument, and it's not who they are. So just maybe that's a quick little turbo tip, as Simon Gale would say, the host of your coaching podcast. Tell me about mentors. Could be someone even you have interviewed, the Racquet Fuels podcast. Who's been an influence in your life? And maybe, you know, I love that John Wooden quote at the start. Like, do you have like a one-liner that someone said to you once that's really impacted your map of the world?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I think it was my college roommate who was a gymnast at UF, and she came up with a list of quotes that I read. They were inspirational as an athlete. You know, you get that type of thing. The quote that sunk into me in college and has stuck with me today, in fact, my mom made a needlepoint of it, was things turn out the best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. Things turn out the best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And that apparently, I found now, is a John Wooden quote. Apparently John Wooden's my man. Didn't really know it, didn't really read a lot, but I did grow up in a somewhat of that era. But I didn't realize that's the leadership that I do aspire to. But for me, as a college person, age person, you know, athlete, student person, I kind of struggled with wanting to find something. Like, was I going to find success or find happiness or find a spouse? And so it was great when I heard this, things turn out the best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. It was like saying, today is the best it can be. Like, this event I'm at is the best it can be. I lost that match, but what are the best things that can come out of that? It's not like a tragedy. It was just a really, for me, a paradigm shift to, you are okay. You don't need to find okay. So I'm not fully sure if that answered your question, but that's exactly what came to me in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And just even a shout out to mentors who are dead or alive. There's so much great content.
Well, and I do believe we don't even have to know our mentors. I mean, my husband would say that Ken Blanchard is a great mentor of his. He does know Ken. I've met Ken, but it's more through his books and his concepts that inspired that sort of mentorship. So yeah, I do think mentorship is hugely key. And I have had many over the years that have impacted me. So dead or alive is absolutely correct.
So in sport, you know, many coaches focus sort of on the X's and the O's when they're first starting out as a coach, and there's nothing wrong with that. So how do they shift their mindset to coaching the whole person, and why does that matter?
Well, it matters for inspiration and motivation. You want to see that whole person. You've got to understand that they have things going on in their life outside of their sport that is going to affect their play. So you can't ignore, you can't turn all that off at the door. You can try, and you should at some level try, but if you just had a death in the family, you don't turn that off at the door. So it's really understanding. I actually just had a conversation with the new tennis coach at UF, the women's coach, who reached out to me as a former player, and Per Nilsson, and it was really inspiring. And he said two things, and one is, I have to really worry about these players as people before I can get the best out of them. And there's so many things that go up and down during a semester. They flunked a test, they had a breakup with a boyfriend, they had, you know, all these things they have to be sensitive to. And then he said he tries to make every practice where, I guess there's the knock on tennis players that they don't get better at tennis while they're in college. And he said, we'll make sure every single one of them is better at college. But the way we have to do that is we have to create a separate drill or a separate goal for each individual player. We can't just throw out the balls and say, today we're working on forehands. Well, somebody might need to work on forehands, but somebody else needs to work on serving +1. Somebody else needs to work on volleys. Somebody else needs to work on overheads. You have to set, a different goal for every individual. And that's come through loud and clear in my master's degree, is this concept of mastery. It makes us all motivated. It makes us feel special. And everybody on the team can get better, even the worst player on the team. So they might be, number 8 on a tennis team, or they might be number 9 or 10 on a basketball team, but they can get better, and they have a role, and they should worry about getting better in their own way. And they may never start or even never play in a basketball game, but they can get better and they can enjoy doing it. They can be motivated. And I think that's, as I've learned in my research, another thing that John Wooden did is that, the guy who was number 10 on the team felt every bit as part of it as every one of the starters. So it's the responsibility of the coach to look at the whole team and look at their individual athletic abilities and look at the individuals as a person to know how you can really get the best out of each one. That's what makes coaching hard. To me, it's, coaching them all the same, throwing out the balls and say, we're all working on forehands. That's pretty easy. Coaching should be harder than that, and if it's done well.
Yeah, it's such a great responsibility. It's a gift to be a coach, isn't it, really? It takes time and it takes practice. And as you said, it's not easy. It's a lot of hard work. So what about sort of crossover lessons, your experience as a player, coach, leadership educator? What's sort of a lesson or two that you could take from the court that an everyday sort of business leader could apply in the workplace?
2 things I would say. One is adaptability. So many things will happen on a tennis court that any athletic field that you have to adapt to. And the best of the best don't let that situation fluster them for very long. It might for an instant, but you don't for very long. And you really get back to your processes, get back to your focus, and you adapt to whatever's happening. Back in the day, it was the wind would kick up, and it was when coaches would say, you don't complain about the wind. Let's talk about how much you love playing in the wind and how good you are at playing in the wind. And you talk yourself into the reality of playing in the wind, and what do you have to do to play in the wind to be successful. And then the ball flies out on, you don't get upset about it. It's that adaptability piece. And the other one is, and I don't think I got the memo on either one of these, to be honest, early enough, is the ability to love challenges and to love mistakes, love failure, and not see it as devastating, but to enjoy taking risks and realizing that there could be a failure or something that you fall short on. There's a tool I learned I think in a podcast, and I've repeated it many times, and I probably should know who to attribute it to, but I don't at this point, but it's the one hard thing rule. And everybody should have one hard thing. And in fact, in a family, everybody should have one hard thing. And I think one of the things that happened, and it happened to me, I have a very wise daughter who pointed out that I didn't model failure very well. And so when you don't model failure, your kids don't think they can fail or think they resist failure. And I didn't want that message, but I probably did live out that message, which I realized later. So the one hard things rule says everybody has a hard thing and everybody talks about it. So you all can share your challenges. So if you have, in your family, the parents, the hard thing could be something going on difficult at work, could be something like they're training for a marathon. What's their one hard thing? And then the kids could have one hard thing that they're doing, at least one hard thing. And it can't just be, I'm going to art class where you're just exploring and doing that's not necessarily hard. That's enjoyable. That's not hard. But it might be learning the piano. It might be trying to make, a certain time on the track team. I mean, it might be a physical attribute. It could be tennis. And the rules of the one hard thing is you have to choose it yourself. Can't choose it for someone. But you have to have one. So as a student, as a child, you have to pick one. Like, what are you going to do? Pick this, this, or this. Well, what are you going to pick? And then you have to finish it out through a season, through a month, through a 6 months, through a period. Like, you have to finish your period that you choose and commit to. And then before you can move on to you say, I don't want to do piano anymore. You have to pick your new hard thing. So you've got to move right on. You can't just say, I'm done with piano. And then you kind of coast for a while. It's like, what's the new hard thing? But then you share about the challenges of it and the failures that you have. And man, if I had had this message going around the dinner table, it would have probably helped me immensely, but I know it would have helped my kids, who were awesome kids. And, but I think they had a sense of, mom's kind of got it together. I need to have it together too, or that's what you do, is you have it together. And that's sort of a facade that parents can put out there just because they're not really taking the time to be honest. Their wife or spouse or husband knows exactly what kind of challenges they're under, but they maybe don't share with their children. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I had the beautiful opportunity even just to sit down with some people that were exiting their university degree in the sports field, and they were all had a number of different job offers, from going back to where their hometown, to work in a country club, or to stay where they were at their new university and learn under a different coach. And they all sat there and they were all very stressed about making the right choice. Like, they felt that it was a bit of a finite instead of an infinite choice. And which brings me to this next generation. You mentioned some trends earlier. I'd love to maybe just go a little deeper there into, so what leadership qualities are you seeing from this next generation of racket sports professionals, and do they differ from past generations? What are your thoughts on that?
I think they do differ from last generation. I think from what I see, of course, I see a lot that are already within my courses, so that means that they're a learner. But I also see a lot of people that are inquiring about the course that don't actually do it. But I do think that there's a good number of them that are quite eager to learn and grow and innovate. I don't feel the older generations are innovators. It was a very static position for many years. And tennis was by itself. There weren't the complementary racket sports. There were X numbers of courts, and you just provided programming for those people who showed. You weren't necessarily selling hard. It felt like you just serviced who was there and tried to do a great job. But I just feel like there's an eagerness to do it a little differently, and they want to learn and they want to do it better. And I do think one of the challenges we have, and you tell me whether you see this in your work, is that in tennis particularly, in order to be a decent player, and you don't even have to be a super high level, but singles tennis is very individual. Like you're out there by yourself. You have to find a way to get it done. That's what we've taught for years. You weren't allowed, and now they're having coaching on tour, but you weren't allowed to have anyone coach. In high school, you could have coaching on changeovers, but never in junior tennis. So it's you, only you, and you fight and figure it out and problem solve. And so then you transition to being in a leader's role. Well, what have you been trained for the last 10 years to do or more? But do things yourself. And that's not what we want anyone to think about in a leadership role. It's by far the opposite. It's less about you and more about the people who work for you. And I think I heard just yesterday the analogy that if you were a coach of a football team, say the Chiefs, where I live in Kansas City, many people think I live in Gainesville, but I don't. I work online. My hometown's Kansas City. Pretty proud Chiefs fans around here. You make sure every single one of those athletes is in tip-top shape to play your very, very best. But as a business leader, do we make sure that every one of the individuals that are working for us is in tip-top shape to do their very best every day? I don't know that we do. I don't know that a director of racket sports is spending a lot of time making sure their team out there on court has everything they need and is equipped to win the game. So you're nodding your head. You're tending to agree.
I agree, because this is one of I think the beauties of transferring sport into the workplace. Let me also say that the leader leading the teams one of the reasons why each of their individuals within their team is not in tip-top shape is because of time. The demands being placed on leaders today are so great, and they are, the latest Gallup report being 69% of the workplace are disengaged. This is not tip-top shape. So it is 100% what you just said is where we need to focus. We need to upskill managers and leaders so that they can, I love this tip-top shape, each individual to bring out the best in the team so that people, not 7 in 10 people driving to work hating, wanting to be at their jobs if they're in person. Or
yeah, it's a shocking stat. No, I know that stat is it's disengagement is so sad that people are not. I really think that we as leaders need to, yeah, you're right. The demands on them is great, but then it's prioritizing what is the most important thing, being able to say no to some things that are unimportant, to schedule the important versus the urgent. Yeah, those are skills that need to be taught. But I as far as your generational, I'm encouraged. A lot of people are eager beavers that are young in their 20s, and they really want to get to the director of rackets position. So they really want to enter what we have offered. They want to learn. I argue they need some time to apply it before they're really ready to hold the role. But you can work for a while and then learn the finer points of being a director of rackets, or you can take a course like ours and then spend some time applying it. Not sure which one of those is, quote, better. Not sure either one is better than the other, but some time needs to pass before someone is going to be a really good leader, before they understand the ecosystem of a business or a club or an environment where they might become a leader. But I think we're in pretty good hands. I think it's going to be interesting, but I do think we have a responsibility to encourage and equip these young people, or they will go do something else. We need to get them fired up about what we have to offer.
Yep, absolutely. All right. In 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what do you think makes a great coach?
Questions and listening.
How can somebody listening to this improve in both of those areas?
I think it's learning to ask questions. Don't tell someone what's wrong. Ask them what they think needs to change. Ask them what they experienced, and then listen. And even ask multiple questions before the coach reflects. I think there's way too much talking in coaching. I know I did a lot more talking when I was younger. Learning to let them discover inside themselves what went wrong is going to go so much farther than giving them the answer.
So when you listen to coaches now, I mean, the coaches are mic'd up, as you said, US Open around the corner. Do you think in that heat of the moment, are they telling too much without even saying, what do you see? Or is it because they have that 30 seconds? What's your take with the on-court coaching these days?
I think on-court coaching is more support than it is coaching. I think there's probably some strategy being discussed, but at that point, it's a little bit more slight reminders, and I doubt it's not in depth. I wouldn't go there as the place that you would question and you would wait and listen as much, because that's not the environment. So that's more when you're in a training block and you're making changes. I don't have a problem with on-court coaching. I think we know there's enough data around. We all need community. We're not an isolated individual. Like, we don't do our best when we're all alone on an island. It's just not, there's nothing about science that says that that's true. So I think having just that encouragement of someone in your box, I mean, the boxes have grown, the environments with which people travel. If someone travels individually, I hope they have a community once they reach their destination, whether it's peers or, tournament directors or people, maybe they stay with a family or know a family locally, because we just need, it's tough to be alone. So I think it's better for the mental health of these athletes, which will make them better athletes.
All right, I'd love to land this episode around, again, one of your quotes: a leader's job is to coach those they lead. Do you think it needs to be in every job description, coach, the word coach, and what does that mean to you?
I do. I think that's what we coach players, and we can do that, but do we coach the people that work with us? I think sometimes we hire and then we assume they already have their skills and we've hired them because they have skills and we let them go. But then we stop. We don't coach the people that work with us. And we're certainly afraid of, if someone is a peer or similar age or close in age, to have any kind of a developmental conversation. We're afraid of that. But every one of us, I'm sure you could list and I could list things that we would like to get better at, things that we do not do as well as we would like to do. So I think we all need a little bit of help. I find that to be the most encouraging part of what I do every day. I have conversations with all of my students, and ultimately that's just so I can get to know them and see where they can, where I can help them. And I don't help any of them the same way. It's always different in their needs. And most of all, I think they just appreciate the fact that I heard them and tried to connect them with someone, or told them about a position, or, told them about a skill set they needed to think about, or identified something in them that maybe they didn't identify in themselves. People need that. And honestly, sometimes the boss is too busy to actually meet with a staff member and encourage them. Boy, that's kind of sad. So everyone needs encouragement. We all do. You do, I do. And so if we all spend a little bit of time encouraging, I think we'd have a lot less dysfunction and maybe less than 70% people disengaged.
Yeah. And of course, none of this is easy. It's a daily practice to ask questions and improve your deep level listening. So talk less, listen more. As you said, what would you tell your younger self? Patience and be more inquisitive. Remember, adapt. It's not one size fits all, so that we can love challenges. And I invite our listeners today to pick one hard thing. The one hard thing rule. That was very impactful. And I think I'm going to adopt that, because the role modeling piece is so important. I just summarized all your gold dust moments, Kim.
You nailed it. That was great.
Absolute pleasure.
Really fun. That was a great summary. And yeah, I would say the one hard thing rule is probably the biggest thing that came out of just my realization that I didn't model failure very well, and I didn't value failure very well. I just always tried to come out on top, but that's not possible. And we're going to come out on top more often if we just acknowledge the places that we fell short and learn from them.
Yeah.
That's the other, you never fail, you just learn. And that's just one of those hard things to really understand when you're 12, 15, 20, 25, but I certainly can adapt and adopt it now.
In fact, I did a post on LinkedIn yesterday about failure because it's not all smoke screens and mirrors is social media. You have to peel back the layers, and you want to just show the world that you're crushing it and everything's great. And sometimes it's not great.
No, I think the humility piece on that is great. I encourage that, and I think commend you for that, for sure. It gives everyone else a chance to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it was an honest and a real conversation that I didn't realize that you're a Kansas City Chief girl.
Yeah, you're a Denver Broncos, so we might have a thing.
There you go. So as the NFL season kicks off, and of course the US Open around the corner, and I invite everyone to really have a listen to the on-court coaching and know that most of the work has already been done. Yeah. Thanks, Kim, for being on the
You're
show.
a cheerleader. Yeah, you're doing awesome work, Emma. It's super great to be a part of your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, and words of wisdom there for us all to do that one hard thing.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating review on your podcast listening device. And don't forget to tell a fellow coach about the show. The ball is in your court to take action and enjoy your coaching.